tutorial we're going to be looking at creating new disco or deep house drums. Somebody sent me a message and asked me could I cover this, so this is what the drum that I'm going to be showing you how to, a workflow that will help you to create drums like this. Okay, so that's one of my forthcoming releases, and yeah, so let's get straight into it. So before we start, usually I like to just do a tiny bit of theory just to get us on the right way. When I thought about these, making these drums, I sort of thought, well, there's four sort of steps to it really. The first thing is, and this is something I've been doing for quite a long time now, is preparation. So I make sure I have all of the samples that I'm going to use in my productions or in a few key drum kits. I'm using Ableton, but really this is for any DAW that you use. I make sure that I have pre-selected all of my samples and put them in drum kit ready for me to use, so that I'm not wasting time digging around every time I produce music. So that's really the preparation and selecting the right samples. Part of the selecting the right samples also it comes down to workflow, how you actually work, and we'll be covering this, and actually making sure that your environment is set up to allow you to select the right sample, which is half the battle with getting these drums sounding right. Then we look at something called balance, and all balance means is to basically get the volume levels correct with everything. A lot of people struggle to get drums right, and a lot of it, honestly, a lot of the time is just to do with the volume levels. It's quite easy to get sucked into tweaking parameters and really losing yourself. But really, if you get the volume levels right, that will address most of the problems that you're having with getting it sounding right. And then once you have the balance right, then you just need to get the effects sorted at the end. So this tutorial is going to hopefully show you the right direction to go in, so that you can go off and get things done correctly yourself. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to dig in and pull out my kick drum kit. So this is one that I've pre-prepared. I've been using this for like years. It has 128 kick samples in. For me, more than I think I'm ever going to use. And I'm going to actually just loop this to one bar initially. So we're going to zoom right in, and I'm just going to make this my kick channel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a MIDI clip in here, and I know that the kick drums live on this one here, and so here's something that I do which I recommend, is that if you're trying to create something like someone else's music, usually I don't have my own music up here, by the way, I have someone else's, but seeing as someone asked me to do drum loop like my tracks, then I thought I would do my own track. So what I do is, when I'm referencing someone else's track, is I actually I map the one key on the keyboard, so to the solo button here, so, and then I turn that channel off. Now when I press the solo button there, I'm going to be able to hear my own track playing, but when I hit the other one, I can hear the new one. So we can easily flick between the two. And so the first thing I'm going to do is actually just balance this kick and get it the same volume as my track. I'm just going to... So I'm going to turn the volume of my the reference track down, and now that I've got the volume levels of these kicks right, I'm now going to see if I can find the right sample. It's not bad, but maybe something a bit more chunky. I'll see what I'll do. Let me just see if I can... Sorry about that. I just decided to chop out a sample that didn't have a part of the reference track didn't have the vocal in, just to make it a bit easier to listen to. Okay, so we're going to get the kicks right. So I need to just find the right sample. Let me just make this all lowercase. That's annoying otherwise. So. Okay, something a bit more chunky maybe. Okay, that's pretty nice. Okay. So now we've got the kick at the right volume. I'm not going to do anything else with that. We'll come back in a minute. I'm just going to sort of plow straight through. We're going to spend a bit of time selecting all the right samples and getting them to work together before we start doing effects over the top. You know, that's the key thing I need to stress here. Is it's about getting getting the right samples in there. Now, with these new disco, the way it works is you always have a snare and then you have a clap over the top. And the best snare that I've found in Ableton is called the DMX, and I'll take a sample of this. I'll resample this and share it with you. Hold on for details at the end. So the DMX is in drums, DMX kick classic. So this is the snare, and I put some MIDI in there, and take that to 8, and then it's 1 there and 1 there. Yeah, so just check it with the original. Yeah, so I'm looking for that thuddy sort of sound. And after I've got the snare, I'm going to go back into my sample kits and I'm going to pull out my claps. Again, all these samples, you know, they're pretty easy to get hold of. They're just the Vengeance sample libraries. So I'm going to call that claps here. Alright, put that in there. I want that in the same place, so I want some claps. Okay, yeah, a bit too much sort of, I don't know, like slushy sound at the end of that, so I'm just going to put the audition on, just try and find something that's a bit nicer. That's quite nice. I know, too much width. Yeah, okay, liking that. So it's sounding like it's what I'm looking for, you know, this particular moment. What I'm looking for at this particular moment in time, I'm looking for like the drums to all just gel together without any effects. I'm looking for like maximum sound quality, and at the moment, to me, that sounds like they're gelling pretty well. The only thing I would say is the claps sound a little bit too loud. So again, we're just balancing. We're not doing any effects. We're just balancing the mix. Yeah, it sounds a bit better. Maybe down a bit. Yeah, that's it. Okay, that sounds better. And here's a little trick, right? Just to give a bit of stereo width. If I was to open this in a wave, actually, if I actually have a look at this waveform, you can see that like with claps, there's like a bit of a peak just after it starts. So a little trick here is just knock that back a bit. It gives it a bit of width and just gives it a bit of drive, bit of energy. That makes it sound less robotic. So we've got that all, you know, sounding pretty tight. One thing I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go back to the kicks, and just to make the kicks stand out a bit, I'm going to add a touch of EQ. Okay, so I'm not going to do a lot, but this is just a little trick that you can do, and it's basically the same every time you do this. Just put a very harsh EQ on the bottom. Bring it up to about 47, 50, just put a little peak there. Just to give the kicks, and what you can now do, you can turn that down a bit. So just by cutting and boosting a bit, you actually get to turn the overall volume down, which means that the track will be louder at the end because you're reducing the volume but increasing the perceived volume of it. So so now we've got that. what I want to do is I actually want to add some reverb on the Claire and the snap, and so I'm just going to group these together because they are essentially the same thing, and I just call this the clap snare. I've probably win a prize for an original name there, but so basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick some reverb, and I probably would want some EQ on, but at the moment, just for the purpose of this tutorial, I just want to try and do the bare minimum just to show you, what the important aspects of getting a drum loop going, a new disco drum loop that sounds professional. And so, okay, so that to me sounds like there's a bit too much room on it, so I'm just going to turn down the dry wet. And now I think the decay is too much. Do it a little bit more. And I'm going to increase the size and the pre-delay. And what the pre-delay is doing is it's like adding a slight shift to the clap, which is giving it a bit of like, it's coming in after, so it's giving it like a, like a sort of an effect where it's almost like having a delay on there before the reverb kicks in. And let's check that against the original. So the difference is that there's a bit more high end, so in the reverb I can okay, so that's basically, I mean, to me, that's, it's sounding like the bass, the basics are there. I think one thing I wanted to stress with this tutorial is, it could take me like maybe 30 minutes or, an hour to get the drums right, maybe even a couple of hours just to get the drums right. But, often when I'm making tracks, I'll just reuse parts from other tracks just to speed that process up. But as I'm showing you from the ground here, I would expect you to really just use the process that I'm showing you here and really build on it. I just want to get you started. I don't want to sit here for hours and do the whole thing. I think it's good to just point people in the right direction. So yeah, so that's sounding like it's got a nice bit of reverb on it, and I can tell you from experience that we're going to start adding stuff now, and it's going to sound sound like a good foundation. So the next thing that we want to do is really just put some shakers in. And so what I use for shakers is open hi-hats. Again, they're just samples that I made, and I drag that in. Shakers, and stick a MIDI in, and then I go down to here and I'm just going to quickly, I put them on every 16th note, like so. Okay, first thing to remember, the first thing that you've always got to do with all of these things is to balance it, like I was saying earlier, and that's just making sure the volume level is right. I think when you start this, most producers, they don't realise how important just setting the volume is the very first thing you should do with any sound that you use within a production, is set the volume. It's like the most powerful thing out of everything, and so I really recommend, like, the first thing, just remember, always reach for the volume knob. Mine, or the original. Now you probably can't hear it, but that has actually got a shaker going in the background, and most of these new disco tracks do. It's just that it's very, very subtle, and what they've done is they've turned the volume right down, and then they have put a sidechain compressor over the top here, and let's see. Oh, sorry, the one thing we need to do before we go on, we actually need to make a sidechain channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert an audio track here, and this is going to be called SC Kicks, and I just drag that up to the top, like so, and what I'm going to say is, here's one I made earlier, so I got... here's one I made earlier that I can't find. Sorry, I got brain fog. Samples. Yeah, samples. I have this little folder of samples. Notice how I've just, everything is like pre-arranged, right? It's really important to just keep everything organised. I'm sure as a producer that you're busy with tons of things. The last thing you want to be doing is digging around looking for stuff. So, oh, what did I do there? I've done something wrong. Let me just undo that. I'm just going to backstep. So that needs to live up there. Need to turn that off. Yeah, okay, so I don't know where that's coming from. I'll just delete that 8 audio. I don't know who put that in there while I wasn't looking. Someone must have come in the room and done it. Now I'm just going to set up the sidechain, and that's going to go to the sidechain kicks. The reason I don't do it with the kicks is because I might take the kicks out during a break later in the production process. I don't want that headache then, so I'll get rid of it now. And I'm going to maximum compression. I'm going to crank it right up or right down the threshold. Okay. And the thing that is going on with this kick, with this shaker, is it's a critical component to get like lots of drive. But there's two more things I just need to do. I need to just EQ out the bottom end of it, and then I want to add some groove into it. So with a swing template. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go into here, and it's usually lots of different people say different things. I think it's better to EQ and then compress, because otherwise you're compressing non-EQ'd signal, and that will add to the distortion, which might be a nice thing, but at the end of the day it's an unaccountable variable. So I'm always at the mindset EQ and then compress, unless I'm looking for a different sound. Okay, and at this point, I'm thinking these shakers could do with being a bit higher in the mix, and what I mean is by frequency. Now, I could start to add stuff with EQ, but what I'm thinking is really just to give it a bit of sparkle. I'm going to knock up this transpose. Volume up a bit. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a groove. And, you know, I just, with Ableton, it's got so many groove templates. I'm like, I just want one. I just want a nice, easy, swinging groove that will be good for like 90% of production. But look at it. I mean, it's just like, it's way too many. So anyway, I'm going to dig into here, and I'm going to go into groove. Sounds pretty good. I usually just go for that one. I don't know why I chose one and it works, and I just always go for the same one now. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah, sounding good. Got some good drive to it. Audition the original. So the last thing is to get a hat in. A lot of the time, these new disco tracks are using like 808 hats, but you know, we can just go in and search for a hat, which is nice. And what I'm going to use again is my open hi-hat library for this. Wait for that, and this is going to be my open hats. Now, the key thing here is we want to try and roughly match the open hi-hat to the shakers. And a lot of that is going to be down to balance to get the EQ right. But you know, we can try and get it in the same relative frequency range as well. And so I'm going to add a MIDI clip in there, and I'm going to put that over to 8ths. We'll put it to 16. It's usually better to set it up going forward, and we just go like that. I just audition these, and I just have a listen through. I want something with lots of high end. Sounds pretty good. Okay, so it's an open hat, but we're going to close it down a bit. And the reason I use an open hat is because I've got more to play with. I can set the attack on it, and I can set the delay, and I've got more to play around with. There's another reason as well, and I'll show you that in a minute. But so let's just take down sustain on this. Okay, so that's sounding pretty close already. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, I'm just because I think it might be nice to show you basically, I'm just going to pull up the transposer. I don't think it necessarily needs it, but let's do it anyway. Yeah, so that's more of an 808 style. Actually, 1 sounds right for me. I don't know what it is about 1, that just sounds right for me. And then I'm gonna do something which will help add a bit of groove to this. And what I'm gonna do is just increase the attack a bit. So I'm increasing the attack and increasing the decay a bit, just to give it just to move the sample on a bit. So the energy is coming in a bit later, and what that'll do is that'll have the effect of swinging slightly the hat off the groove, and that will add for a nice laid back feel. And there you have it. Really, that's the basics. Moving on from here now. I mean, it sounds pretty good to me. I mean, if we just maybe grab out a little bass line from just to show you. Maybe just get one of my clips, get one of my miscellaneous clips. I did like Monty. Been listening to Monty and did one of his bass lines the other day on silent, but obviously left the filter open. Let's have a quick listen to these. So basically all the elements are there now. We just need to mix this, and really by mixing it, quite a simple process. Just take the EQ out the low end of a lot of things, and that's all I really do for EQ. Add more reverb into various places, into these hi-hats. I may also add a ping pong delay just to add some width to it. I mean, it's one of the things actually that I wanted to go over as well, was just to add width to this. Is if I mix it now, to add more width to it, what I do is start to double up some of these samples, and I pan them hard left and hard right, and that will actually have the effect of widening out the sample. So on this hi-hat, we'll just turn down the so that's, so the ping pong delay there is adding a bit of width. And so we can just maybe EQ out the bottom end. Since I'm talking about it, might as well do it. And so we just like this. There we go. So that's it basically. That's it. So, hopefully that's showing you how to just get the basics down of a new disco drum line, drum loop. There isn't really much more to it. Obviously, going forward from that, the important thing is just keep it simple, and layer up and add more stuff and hard pan left and right, and that will bring more width into it, and then add more variation with other hats and stuff. But if you stick to those core principles, you'll do well with your drum loops. What I'll do is I'll actually flatten these stems down, and if you send me a message if you like my page on Facebook and you send me a message, I'll send them to you. If you've already liked my Facebook page, then it would help me if you could share this tutorial around, just because I spent some time making these, so it's nice to get other people, as many people as possible, to benefit from it. That's all. So look out for this release that I auditioned up here on KZ Records soon. And thanks a lot.